Here's how to knit the All Too Well scarf worn by CD Sync and the All Too Well short film. It was also sold on the Taylor Swift merch site, but it's since been discontinued. To make your scarf, you'll need bulky weight yarn, preferably red, but any color will do. I'm using the Abbey Road Wool to Be Wild yarn, which is a merino wool and acrylic blend in the color wine. The number of balls of yarn you need will differ based on the length of your scarf. I use 6 balls to make mine. You'll also need 6mm knitting needles. I'm using circular needles, but you can use any kind you like since you're knitting it flat. Other miscellaneous things you'll need is a pair of scissors, measuring tape, and a tapestry needle, and a crochet hook if you have one. The width of the finished scarf is 25.5cm or 10 inches. So to know how many stitches to cast on, lay out your measuring tape, then measure 10 inches with your yarn. Repeat that 4 times so that your yarn measures about 40 inches. Make a slip knot. Take your needle and slide the slip knot through the needle. The tail end of your work should be at the back, while the yarn that's attached to the ball is at the front. Next, we'll cast on the stitches. I'll be using the long tail cast on method, but you can cast on however you'd like. To know how many stitches you've casted on, just count the loops that's on your needle. So here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll need to cast on 44 stitches in total. Before we get started, I'll be using the terms right side and wrong side quite a lot in this video, so let me explain the difference. This side is the right side. You can see by the cast on edge that it flows smoothly, kind of like a braid. On the other hand, this side has little circular bumps on it, making it the wrong side. There's nothing actually wrong with it, but it's just a term to mean that it'll be on the back side. But since this scarf is reversible, the back side will look almost the exact same as the front. After casting on, we will turn our work so we are facing the wrong side. You'll hold the needle with the stitches on your left hand and the empty needle with your right. This scarf is made up of stitches knitted through the back loop. Now this is how you would normally work a knit stitch, by inserting the needle from the front to the back. But to do a K1 TBL, which stands for knit 1 through the back loop, you'll insert your needle from the back of the stitch. Then take your yarn that's attached to the ball and go counterclockwise around your knitting needle. Pull the stitch you created out and slip the first cast on stitch off your needle. The next stitch will be a P1 TBL, which is a purl 1 through the back loop. Before you start, take your yarn from the back of your work and bring it to the front. Pretend that you're holding both needles together. You'll insert your right needle into the stitch like how the left needle is inserted into the stitch. Now this is a comparison to how you will do the normal purl stitch, which you'll just insert through the front. But since we're doing a P1 TBL, you'll insert it through the back loop as such. Then you'll wrap your yarn around the needle counterclockwise again. Grab the stitch you just made and drop the stitch on your left needle. You'll continue that pattern until the end of the row. Before you knit the next stitch, move the yarn from the front to the back of your work. Knit the next stitch through the back loop. Move the yarn forward and purl the next stitch through the back loop. Repeat that pattern of knit 1 then purl 1 until the end of the row. Turn your work and we'll start on row 2. Row 2 follows the same pattern as row 1. So knit 1 through the back loop, then purl 1 through the back loop all the way until the end. Turn your work and we'll start on row 3. Row 3 also follows the same pattern as rows 1 and 2. Knit 1 through the back loop, then purl 1 through the back loop. Repeat until the end of the row. Turn your work and now we'll be on the right side of our work. For row 4, instead of knitting first, we'll purl the first stitch. Before you work, make sure the yarn is at the front of your project. Then insert your needle through the back. Purl the first stitch through the back loop. You'll knit the second stitch through the back loop. Then repeat until the end. So P1 TBL, then K1 TBL. Turn your work and we'll start on row 5. Row 5 follows the same pattern as row 4. So purl 1 through the back loop, then knit 1 through the back loop all the way until the end. Return your work and we'll start on row 6. Row 6 also follows the same pattern as rows 4 and 5, so purl 1 through the back loop, then knit 1 through the back loop. Repeat until the end of the row. Those are the rows for the design of the All Too Well scarf. Basically, rows 1 to 3 start with a K1 TBL, then a P1 TBL. Rows 4 to 6 start with a P1 TBL, then a K1 TBL. You repeat these 6 rows until you reach the desired length of your scarf. The length of your scarf will be dependent on how tall you are. The perfect length of a scarf should be the same as your height. So if you're 170 cm tall, your scarf should also be 170 cm. Remember that we will also be adding tassels to both ends of our scarf, so be sure to take into account the length of your tassel into the final length of your scarf. If you'd like to follow the original red scarf, it is 180 cm or 72 inches long. Just a heads up that we will be casting off on a right side row, so make sure that you end on the wrong side when you're happy with the length you've knitted. This is what my work looks like, and I'm gonna cast off my work. For context, I'm on row 2, but as long as you're on the right side row, you should be good. To cast off, we're going to work the first 2 stitches as in the pattern. In my case, I'm doing a K1 TBL, then a P1 TBL. Next, insert your left needle into the first stitch and pass it over the second stitch. We've casted off 1 stitch. Work the next stitch as in the pattern, so mine is a K1 TBL. Then bring the first stitch over the second stitch. Work the next stitch established in the pattern, mine is a P1 TBL, then pass the first stitch over the second stitch. Continue working the next stitch in the established stitch pattern, then passing the first stitch over the second stitch until you only have 1 stitch remaining on your right needle. Wrap the yarn around your needle and bring the last stitch over the wrapped yarn. Cut a tail and pull on the loop to tighten. Now, we'll add on the tassels onto our scarf. I'm making my tassels 10 centimeters or 4 inches long, but the original one is 9 inches if you'd like to follow that instead. Measure out your yarn to double the length of the intended length. So since I want mine to be 10 cm, I'm going to lay it out to 20 cm. And you repeat that as many times as how thick you want your tassel to be. I'm going to do 3 to make 6 strands. Cut the yarn. Holding the 3 strands of yarn together, fold the yarn in half. Take your scarf and from the wrong side, insert your needle into where you want to place a tassel. Loop the yarn onto your needle and pull it through. Now you should have a little loop on the opposite side of your scarf. Insert the yarn on the opposite side into the loop and pull on the yarn to tighten. Tighten it evenly along all the strands. You repeat that for as many tassels as you'd like along the edge of your scarf. I did 12 tassels, but the original has 17 tassels on each side. By the way, if you have a crochet hook, I'd highly recommend using that instead because it made it so much easier to pull the strands through. Now you should have some kind of dangling messy thing going on. To make it look more like a tassel, cut the bottom part of the loops to separate them. Make sure you cut them evenly. And I like to tighten them again. Finally, if it's necessary, cut the tassels to make them even. Repeat on the other side and make sure you place them evenly so that it's equal on both sides. Weave in any loose ends and block the piece to finish. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give this video a like. And if you haven't knitted one yet, I'd highly recommend checking out my folklore cardigan tutorial series next.